brief kush smoke.
What we're going to talk about today, since we're in what, the 5th day of Hanukkah, we're gonna cover. I'm not gonna do a lesson on the history of Hanukkah. I'm not gonna get in depth on that. That's something that you can easily read up on. I'm gonna show a comparison between Hanukkah and Christmas, and I'm gonna show and present facts on how Satan has actually used Christmas to act as a counterfeit for Hanukkah. But what's sad about this is that some people in the past, even Israelites, have attempted to condemn those who keep Hanukkah, and have criticized those of us who observe Hanukkah and say, you know, you're doing Christmas. For the simple fact that Christmas, which is a man-made pagan holiday, Christmas falls around this time of year. They think that Hanukkah is a counterfeit for Christmas, but I'm going to show and prove that it's the other way around. All right. First of all, let's go to the book of John. Let's go to Yochanan. Sorry, give me Yochanan chapter 10. Yochanan chapter 10. I want you to read verse 22.
And it was at Jerusalem the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. And Yeshua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Okay,
they were at Jerusalem, and it was the feast of dedication. Now, anyone should know, if you just simply look the word up in Hebrew, the word dedication in Hebrew is Hanukkah. All right, so the Messiah, he was in Jerusalem at the feast of dedication. Now, this information has been presented to other Israelites who do not observe Hanukkah, and they say, well, how do you know he was keeping Hanukkah? You know, he was just there. He was there condemning the Jews. Well, let's see. I'm going to show you how that's false. That's just a way to for someone to get out of accepting what's written. Because if you back on up, let's go on over to John chapter 7. Because there's a chronology of events that took place. Give me John chapter 7, and start in verse 1.
After these things, Yeshua walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry, because the Jews sought to kill him.
Go ahead.
Now the Jews' feast of tabernacles was at hand. His brother therefore said unto him, Depart hence, and go unto Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. Okay, so the Messiah, he said he walked in Galilee because the Yahudim, they wanted to kill him. Okay, and you notice in verse 3 it says it was a feast of tabernacles. Now we just went through tabernacles, right? After that is Hanukkah. Why would the Messiah go into Jerusalem just to condemn them when they would, you know, they knew they wanted to kill him? You know, the thing is, but the zeal that he has for his father's house, that was more important than his own safety. And plus, he already knew his time hasn't come yet. So that's chapter 7 in the book of John. The same chronology. There's an order of events that took place. All right. If you keep reading from chapter 7 on through chapter 10, which we're not going to cover, you'll see that the Messiah was in Jerusalem during tabernacles. Right after that, he came right back because he lived in Galilee, and that's quite a distance from Jerusalem. All right, and he came right on back in chapter 10. All right, but let's see. Let's go into a little bit of history right quick. Let's go. Give me. You got your apocrypha. I need mine. Go to First Maccabees. I'm not going to cover the whole story
of why we're doing this. I'm just going to show that this is scriptural.
Suitcase. Get my suitcase.
Where is it?
Over there.
1 Maccabees chapter 4. We're going to find out why Hanukkah, this isn't the first time that Hanukkah was kept. 1 Maccabees chapter 4, and start reading in verse 35.
Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judah's soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antioch and gathered together a great company of strangers. And having made his army greater than it was, he purposed to come again into Judea. Verse 36. Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary.
You see that? It says, let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. The Hebrew word for dedication is Hanukkah. Alright? But like I said, this isn't the first time that Hanukkah or a dedication feast has been observed. Because some people will say, oh, brother, we don't read from the Apocrypha. Because, see, some stiff-necked Israelites allowed Christianity to influence them that way. Because Christianity are the ones, those are the ones who took the Apocrypha out of the King James Bible. They did that in the 1800s. Alright, but see, since you don't want to believe the Apocrypha, we're just going to, do you believe the law and the prophets? Because dedication, or Hanukkah, was kept in the law and the prophets. Alright, read on.
Verse 37. Upon this all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up to Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profane, and the gates burned up, and shrubs growing in the courts, as in the forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried toward heaven.
Now the reason why they would do that, because they seen the temple desolate. Now many of us can't really put ourselves in their shoes, because we haven't experienced what it means to have a temple. Alright? We grew up in this diaspora. Many of us just love going to church. Alright? And that's what they call it, to church. And so we couldn't feel what they felt. You'd have to really put yourself in that mindset to understand what they were going through back then. Go ahead.
Verse 41. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place.
Now the reason why the sanctuary had to be cleansed, if you read on earlier in the first book of Maccabees, you'll see that Antiochus Epiphanes came in there. These were Grecians. They came in there, and he put himself in the place of the Most High. He was the abomination of desolation.
Yes.
All right, and they came in there and sacrificed pork on the altar and defiled the altar and set up pagan images and tore down everything that we had. Our menorah stopped burning. The lights went out inside the temple, and that means a lot. We're going to get into that in a minute. But read on.
Verse 44. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it, wherefore they pulled it down.
Right, the heathen are these Grecians that came up in there. Go ahead.
And laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them.
Go ahead.
Then they took whole stones according to the law, and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the courts.
Right, they made these things holy. They made them kodesh. All right, they hallowed them. They kept them clean, set apart, just like they were. The Most High told Aaron to do. All right, go ahead.
Verse 49. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick, and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense, and the table.
Okay, the candlestick is the menorah. That's what they're talking about. Go ahead.
And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted.
That's right.
That they might give light to the temple.
See, and that means a lot. But we're not going to focus on that a whole lot. But the menorah or the candlestick they lit so it might give light to the temple. Go ahead.
Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year they rose up betimes in the morning.
Go ahead.
And offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made.
Now, did you notice that this was done on the 25th of the month of Caslu?
Yeah.
All right. And what does Christianity do? They put Christmas on the 25th of December. All right. But you can't find that in the scriptures. You can't find anywhere where the Mashiach was born on the 25th of anything. Okay. But they say that's the day he was born, and that's the day that we want to observe. Wrong. Only what they're doing is celebrating winter solstice and some other pagan festivities all combined into this. But we have from Scripture that this was done on the 25th day. The first day of Hanukkah is always on the 25th of the month of Caslu. All right? This is straight from the book.
The next month.
Right. Not on the 12th Roman month, but on the 9th Hebrew month. All right? This is straight from the Scriptures. And real quick, go back to John chapter 10. Read verse 22.
And it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter.
Okay, it was winter. That's what it is right now. We're in winter. All right. Okay, so we can see how the Most High inspired these men. The Most High brought these things about, because as we'll read a little bit later, that the same day that the temple was desecrated and defiled, that very same day, 3 years later, is when they went in and cleansed it. The Most High allowed all this. And I'm going to prove that it was under inspiration of the Most High. Keep on reading. We're going to go to verse 59. Keep going.
Verse 54. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals.
See? At that same time the heathen defiled it, that very same day, 3 years later, it was dedicated. Go ahead.
Verse 55. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising Yahweh of heaven, who had given them good success.
Okay, you see what they did during that time? They praised the Most High. They didn't focus on all this other stuff. They praised the Most High. And so during these times, we praise the Most High. Go ahead.
And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise.
That's right.
They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them.
Whoa, notice how they decked the forefront of the temple. What does it mean to deck something?
Just dress it up.
Exactly. The definition for deck means to cover, to clothe, to decorate.
Wow.
Notice how these pagan people out here, when
Deck
they
the
celebrate...
halls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I even have that written down. They sing, deck the halls with bowls of holly.
Folly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
'Tis the season to be jolly. Alright? But and see, they put decorations on their churches, their houses, inside their houses. Alright? But see, notice how they here, we deck the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields and the gates and the chambers renewed and hang doors upon them. So we did decoration. We did that.
Right.
That's our thing. So when we put up decorations during the time of Hanukkah, nobody can say, you got Christmas decorations? No. They didn't have Christmas decorations back then. We got decorations. We deck our buildings out. We deck our homes out. All right? That has nothing to do with Christmas. But Christmas, we can't find anything in the scriptures where it says go put lights up around your house on the 25th of December. We can't find any of that. But you can see how Satan has counterfeited what the Most High had ordained. This is all through the influence of the Most High. You know, now Hanukkah is not a feast that was given in Torah, but Hanukkah, or dedication, is something that we've always done in honor of the Most High. We're going to touch on that in a minute. What verse you on?
Verse 58.
Go ahead.
Thus was there very great gladness among the people, and for that the reproach of the heathen was put away.
See that? You know what? It was gladness amongst the people, and the reproach of the heathen put away, because during that time, we weren't allowed to worship. Like I said, I'm not going to cover the first 2 chapters of the book of Maccabees, but they took away our right to keep the law, to keep the Sabbath. We couldn't circumcise our children. We couldn't worship in the temple. They sacrificed pork on the altar. They set up their idols. They totally dissed us. Then they had some of our people turning to becoming Hellenized. All right? And we were glad to get our Hebrew culture and our faith and our worship back. That's one of the reasons why this is important for us. But see, Satan has inspired not only the heathen, but he's inspired other Israelites to ignorantly condemn Hanukkah. All right, and try to say we're doing Christmas. But the thing is, these same people who are doing this, they're Hellenized themselves. And I'm talking about these Israelites out there too. Because the ones that don't read from the Apocrypha, notice how Hellenized they are. Many of them don't even wear their culture. A lot of them don't wear tzitzit. You know, they walk around looking like Mormons. Alright? If they really study, they see how Hellenized they are. And with all Hanukkah is celebrating coming out of that nonsense. Alright? And getting our culture and our true worship back. Alright? We'll read on.
Verse 59. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year, by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month of Caslu, with mirth and gladness.
Right, that's how we're supposed to do it. Judas and his brethren, you know, these are family of these are the Maccabees, the Hasmoneans. They had control of the priesthood back then, and they fought for us. They're the ones that liberated us back then. If it wasn't for the Most High using them, the Messiah wouldn't have been able to worship at the temple and fulfill the laws.
That's right.
Then he couldn't have been the Messiah, because he was perfect.
Yes.
See, you people that say you follow the Messiah, you're not understanding these things. If it wasn't for the Most High inspiring these men to rise up and do what they did, the Messiah wouldn't have been able to worship. The temple would have been a place where Zeus was worshipped, and a place where pork was being sacrificed. Alright? The Most High used these men to clean this stuff up and to run those heathen up out of there. Alright, so you guys out there need to study some more. What verse was that?
That was verse 59.
Alright, did we get all that? Okay, yeah, we got all that. So they ordained it. It says, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that these days of dedication, or Hanukkah, should be kept in their year, from year to year. Alright? Now, so we can see how the date, how Christianity, through the influence of Satan, has counterfeited the date. Okay? And you can see how they decorate things. They counterfeited the decoration. We're going to show you something else that they counterfeited. And this is a big part of Christmas. Give me Exodus chapter 25. We're going to see what they counterfeited. And these things, I'm not saying that there was a group of men sitting around plotting. You're going to see, because Satan deceives the whole world, according to Revelation 12:9. You can see how you're going to find out that this is totally influenced by Satan. I don't even think men sat around and plotted these things. Exodus chapter 25, starting verse 31.
Exodus chapter 25 and verse 31.
We're going to see something else that Christmas has counterfeited. Go ahead.
Okay. Exodus chapter 25 and verse 31. And you shall make a candlestick of pure gold.
Okay, the candlestick is the menorah. Go ahead.
A beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knobs, and his flowers shall be of the same.
Notice how the candlestick or the menorah has one shaft in the middle and 6 branches. Okay? Go ahead.
And 6 branches should come out of the sides of it. 3 branches of the candlestick out of one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side.
Okay, and we have the example there. Go ahead.
3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a knob and a flower in one branch.
So we have, this menorah has branches and flowers. Interesting. What does that sound like to you, just from reading that? Sounds like a tree, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And I'm going to save some of this for another lesson. But the menorah represents a tree, as it is written. Read on.
Branches.
Read on.
And 3 bowls made like unto almonds on the one branch, with a knob and a flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their knobs and their flowers.
Sounds like an almond tree. Go ahead.
And there shall be, and there shall be a knob under 2 branches of the same, and a knob under 2 branches of the same, and a knob under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceeds out of the candlestick. Their knobs and their branches shall be of the same. All shall be one beaten work of pure gold, and you shall make 7 lamps thereof, and they shall be light, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they might give light over against it.
Okay. So we can see how we have a tree. All right. It has 7 branches. It has a shaft in the middle. It has 6 branches, excuse me, and a shaft in the middle. And the tree, this tree gets lit. All right, as you can see, it gives off lights. Now, during the feast, or during what did they do during the days of the Maccabees? They went in and they lit the menorah. Okay, on the 25th day of the month of Kislev. What do these pagan people do? They take a Christmas tree and they light that. All right, and some people would burn their houses down from doing that. Okay, but during Hanukkah, in honor of what our forefathers went through and what they did, and what the Most High did for them, we light the menorah. All right, but our stuff is written. This was ordained. All right, now so we can see how the tree the Christmas tree is clearly a counterfeit of the Most High's tree that should be lit during these days. All right. Now, back to that thing with that song, "Deck the Halls with Boughs of Holly." Holly is trees and shrubs and branches. If you look that up in any dictionary, it'll tell you trees, shrubs, and branches. All right. Well, we have our branches. We have our tree with its branches. This thing is a total counterfeit of Hanukkah. All right. Let's go back to the Maccabees. Go to 2 Maccabees, chapter 10. No, first start up. Give me 2 Maccabees chapter 1. I want you to read verses 1 through 6. Let's move through this quick. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on it.
2 Maccabees chapter 1. The brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem and in the land of Judea, wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt, health and peace.
Okay, so during that time, the brethren, the Yahudim who were in Israel, they were writing a letter to the Yahudim who were scattered, the ones who were living in Egypt. Notice what they told them. Read.
Yahweh be gracious unto you, and remember his covenant that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, his faithful servants. And give you all in heart to serve him, and to do his will, with a good courage and a willing mind. And open your hearts in his law and commandments, and send you peace. And hear your prayers, and be at one with you, and never forsake you in time of trouble. And now we be here praying for you.
Okay, now go on over to 2 Maccabees chapter 10. I want you to read verses 5 through 8.
2 Maccabees chapter 10 verse 5. Now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple, on the very same day it was cleansed again, even the 25th day of the same month, which is Caslu.
Go ahead.
And they kept 8 days with gladness, as in the feast of the tabernacles, remembering that not long before they had held the feast of the tabernacles, when as they wandered in the mountains and dens like beasts.
Yeah, because when Antiochus Epiphanes, when he was up in there, when they took over Israel, Judas Maccabeus, they banded together, and they were basically like guerrilla warfare type fighters. They had to get an army together, but they had to go and hide up in the hills and whatnot during the Feast of Tabernacles. They couldn't keep it. All right, go ahead.
Therefore they bare branches and fair bows and palms also, and sang psalms unto him that had given them good success in cleansing his place. Verse 8. They ordained also by a common statute and decree that every year those days should be kept of the whole month of the Jews.
Okay, you got that? I mean, that's clear. You know, and those people that say, well, we don't deal with the Apocrypha, so you can throw that out the window. Well, obviously the Messiah, he dealt with it. And let's go into Josephus, the works of Josephus. I'm going to get some more history on Israel in regards to Hanukkah. We're still doing this comparison on how Christmas has counterfeited Hanukkah. Here, you go ahead and start reading that 6. You know what? I'll read some of them. I'll read. Okay, this is Antiquities of the Jews, book 12, chapter 7, and section 6. It reads, When therefore the generals of Antiochus' armies had been beaten so often, Judas assembled the people together and told them that after these many victories which the Most High had given them, they ought to go up to Jerusalem and purify the temple and to offer the appointed sacrifices. But as soon as he, with the whole multitude, was come to Jerusalem and found the temple deserted and its gates burnt down and plants growing in the temple of their own accord, account of its desertion, he and those that were with him began to lament and were quite confounded at the sight of the temple. This is the same, almost the same as what we read in the book of Maccabees. I'm going to skip some of this. It says, When therefore he had carefully purged it, they had brought in new vessels, the candlestick, the table of showbread, and the altar of incense, which were made of gold. He hung up the veils at the gates and added doors to them. He also took down the altar of burnt offering and built a new one of stones that he gathered together, and not of such as were hewn with iron tools. So on the 25th day of the month Caslu, which the Macedonians call Apelius, they lighted the lamps that were on the candlestick and offered incense upon the altar, and laid the loaves upon the table of showbread and burnt offerings upon the new altar. All right. Now it so fell out that these things were done on the very same day on which their divine worship had fallen off. and was reduced to a profane and common use after 3 years' time. For so it was that the temple was made desolate by Antiochus, and so continued for 3 years. This desolation happened to the temple in the 145th year, on the 25th day of the month Apellius, and on the 153rd Olympiad. But it was dedicated anew on the same day, the 25th of the month Apellius, in the 148th year, and on the 154th Olympiad. And this desolation came to pass according to the prophecy of Daniel, which was given 408 years before, for he declared that the Macedonians would dissolve that worship. Okay, and they did. It's when he said that they would take away the daily sacrifice. All right, and then some of you same Israelites out there that who teach that you shouldn't be doing Hanukkah, you mistakenly say that prophecy in Daniel was for a future time when it already came to pass. See, more of your ignorance gets revealed when you start condemning and showing how much you don't know. All right, man, we don't have time to do it, but we can go through the book of Daniel and show what Antiochus did. That all that stuff was prophesied. That so for someone to say these aren't inspired writings, then they'd have to say Daniel, his writings aren't inspired. Go ahead.
And basically, what we're reading now is actually recorded history. We go to any encyclopedia and find this out.
Yeah. This is Jewish history, so-called Jewish history, written from by a priest of Israel, who's actually related to these people. He's related to the Maccabees. Okay, now in section 7 it says, Now Judah celebrated the festival of the restoration of the sacrifices of the temple for 8 days, and omitted no sort of pleasures thereon. But he feasted them upon very rich and splendid sacrifices, and he honored the Most High, and delighted them by hymns and psalms. Nay, they were so very glad at the revival of their customs, when after a long time of intermission, they unexpectedly had regained the freedom of their worship, and they made it a law for their posterity, that means for their descendants. They made it a law for their posterity that they should keep a festival on account of the restoration of their temple worship for 8 days. And from that time to this, we celebrate this festival and call it lights. I suppose the reason was because this liberty beyond our hopes appeared to us, and that thence was the name given to that festival. Yeah, so we know it as the Hanukkah or dedication, and also lights. And we had lights once again shining in the temple. Lights represent a lot of things. But we had hope, and you can see how during Christmas time people put up lights and stuff. You know, just another counterfeit. You know, but we know what our lights came from the menorah, and it lit the temple. It brought light. This represents the law. The menorah is a deep topic. We don't have time to cover that. But this represents the law going forth. All right, that light, that temple worship. Okay. Now, let's go into the so-called Old Testament. Let's go into the Law and the Prophets. Get me Deuteronomy 20. We're almost finished here. Deuteronomy 20 and verse 5. Now we're going to see what's the importance of Hanukkah or dedication. And we're going to show that this was taught from the very beginning. Go ahead.
And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, What man is there that hath built a new house and has not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, for fear he die in the battle. And another man dedicated. Okay, so what man, it's saying when you build a house, you dedicate it to the Most High. This is how it was done. He asked a question. Read that again. And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, What man is there that had built a new house and has not dedicated, let him go and return to his house, for fear he dies in battle, and another man dedicates it.
Okay, so that word dedicate, look that up in the Strong's. It's on that right page. It's I think it's 25. Let me see it. Yeah, 2598. Go ahead and let Brother Malachi read that. Just point that out right under 2598. Let's see, what Hebrew word is that?
Chanukah.
Yeah, that word is Hanukkah. That's in Deuteronomy 20, verse 5. Alright? And we know it means dedication. It was translated in English as dedication. Alright, but it gets deeper. Go on to 1 Kings.
Alright.
Let's just get to the point. Let's get straight to the point. See what was done when Solomon built the temple. They kept Hanukkah back then. It wasn't the same Hanukkah that they kept in the Maccabean period, but it was Hanukkah.
Let's go.
1 Kings chapter 8. I want you to read verses 63 through 66.
Okay, let's go.
When you got it, read.
All right. 63.
Yeah.
And Shlomo, or Solomon, offered a sacrifice of peace offerings, which he offered to Yahweh. 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the children of Israel dedicated the house of Yahweh.
Okay, so they dedicated. That's the same word. That's Hanukkah, right there. If you look it up, they dedicated the house of Yahweh when Solomon built the temple. Read on.
The same day that the king hallowed the middle court that was before the house of Yahweh. For there he offered burnt offerings and meat offerings, the fat of peace offerings, because the brazen altar that was before Yahweh was too little to receive the burnt offerings, and the meat offerings, and the fat of the peace offerings.
Go ahead.
And at that time, Shlomo, or Solomon, held a feast, and all Israel with him, a great congregation.
Wait, Solomon held a feast. Was this pagan?
Oh, well,
that ain't the Most High didn't say to do that in His law.
Okay.
Read on. Read that again.
Okay. And at that time, Solomon held a feast, and all Israel with him, a great congregation from the entering in of Hamath into the river of Egypt, before Yahweh, Almighty One, 7 days. And 7 days, even 14 days.
They did this for 14 days. Did it say some of Israel or all Israel?
You didn't say half. It
right.
said all.
All Israel kept this Hanukkah for 14 days.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
And on the 8th day, he sent the people away, and they blessed the king, and went into their tents, joyful, glad of heart, for all the goodness that Yahweh had done for Dawid of David, his servant, and for Israel, his people.
Okay. So when the temple was built, they kept Hanukkah. All right. So you can see the importance back then when the temple was cleansed. They kept a dedication, because when you build a house, you always dedicate it to the Most High. All right. Let's for the last scripture, get me Nehemiah chapter 12, read verse 27. You're going to see what the children of Israel did when they came out of Babylon.
And at the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, they sought the Levites out of all their places, to bring them to Jerusalem, to keep the dedication with gladness, both with thanksgivings and with singing, with cymbals, psalteries, and with harps. And the sons of the singers gathered themselves together, both out of the plain country round about Jerusalem, and from the villages of Netophathi.
So you can see they kept dedication. They kept Hanukkah. All right, but read that verse again. Verse 27.
Verse 27. And at the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, they sought the Levites out of all their places, to bring them to Jerusalem, to keep the dedication with gladness, both with thanksgivings and with singing.
Okay, they kept the dedication with gladness, with thanksgiving and singing. Just like the Maccabees, they did it. Remember, they had sung hymns and psalms. Same thing. Read on.
With cymbals, psalteries, and with harps. And the sons of the singers gathered themselves together, both out of the plain country round about Jerusalem, and from the villages of Netophathi. Also from the house of Gilgal, and out of the fields of Geba and Azumah. For the singers had builded them villages round about Jerusalem. And the priests and the Levites purified themselves and purified the people and the gates and the wall.
Okay, so you had righteous Ezra leading this up, and they had the music, the instruments, the singers. All right, this was the dedication. That word also is Hanukkah. All right, so for those who were criticizing, saying, Hanukkah ain't scriptural, I could show a whole lot more things where things were dedicated. The altar and the tent, all that stuff, and the tent of meeting. I just picked out a few scriptures. Hanukkah is scriptural. It's not just something in the Apocrypha. Even though the Apocrypha is part of the scriptures, but it's all over the place. There's no getting away from it. It's just through the people's ignorance that they condemn things that they don't know much about. And like I said, I showed how Christmas is a counterfeit for Hanukkah and not the other way around. So those of you out there who are criticizing, saying that Israelites who keep Hanukkah really want to keep Christmas, that's a lie. That's a damn lie. All right? Christmas is a counterfeit of Hanukkah. We show the date, the decorations, the tree, the lights, the singing, the instruments, the having a great time. All right? So, and it's in the winter. There's no getting away from it. All right? Hanukkah is here to stay. It is what it is. All right, anyone got anything to add?
Yes, I do. We talk about the dedication. See, when we talked about in Scripture, I mean, you talked about the showbread. You talked about, the table. You talked about the candles. You talked about the most holy place. And my thing is that also, when we look at a certain situation, like every new apartment that we may go into, you probably did that for this house. I did that for my house. I pray in every room. Cleanse it out.
Dedicated to the Most High.
Dedicated to the Most High, because we have to live here. That's a form of Hanukkah.
Exactly.
Also, because this whole thing, we had this running joke in the car before we got here. Eanity. I talked about churchianity, right? But the same thing, churchianity will prevent us from seeing what's true.
Right.
So we can't subscribe ourselves to churchianity. And churchianity will allow us to stay in these nice little safe cages. And we can't go outside of these nice little safe cages, to delve out of what we should be doing. With that being said, I give honor to this day because our people, as a people, we decided that we're going to serve the Most High in spirit and in truth, in dedication to the New Temple.
We fought for it. And
yes, we did.
People gave their lives. You read the stories of the things that took place, man. You had women risking their lives to, circumcising their sons and bucking up against the authority that was in place at that time. How many women are going to have heart nowadays if they come with a law saying we can't circumcise our children or can't do this and that, or we get put to death? How many women are willing to risk that? And I'm talking about Israelite women. All right, and how many Israelite men are willing to risk their lives for what they believe? I'm not saying go out there and fight against this government. I'm not saying that. But how many men have the heart that these men had back then? All right. So at the same time, we give honor to what the Most High inspired these men to do back in those days. Has nothing to do with Christmas, or has nothing to do with those Jewish people from Europe who don't even teach what I just brought out. They say Hanukkah comes from, first of all, they use a 9-branch menorah, which is nowhere written in Scripture. And then they say the reason why Hanukkah is about a miracle that took place in the temple when they only had enough oil for one day and it lasted for 8, something like that, some crap. And that's in their Talmud. You can't find that in Scripture. We just brought out what Hanukkah is all about. But those Jewish people have put a bad light on everything and given us a bad rap with their false Hanukkah traditions. All right, Hanukkah has nothing to do with some miracle that took place in the temple. We can't find it in the history of Josephus. We can't find it in Scripture. So it must be a lie.
And we have to understand that the things that we've presented to you, you can go into any encyclopedia and find it.
Yep.
This is recorded history. You know, so this is no fairy tale. This is no feel-good story or anything like this, although it is at the same time, because we took our land back, we had a second temple, and we celebrated that. We did that.
Yeah. And if you want to, during this time of year, if you want to buy gifts for your loved ones and friends or whatnot who are like-minded, that's fine. It has nothing to do with Christmas. Make this time joyful. You know, you can buy gifts. You can buy gifts on any feast day, or it doesn't even have to be a feast day. But make the time joyful. That's what we read about. They made this a joyful time. All right. So gift giving is fine. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing to do with Christmas. All right. That's it on that. May the Most High bless your understanding.
You ain't no friend of me. You ain't no kin of me. We have no history.